One of the best ways of understanding our Unitarian Universalist tradition is looking at our seven principles. They're really too long to explain to someone in a casual conversation, but if you get more than a couple of minutes, or if you can share something in writing, the seven principles is a great resource. The first and the seventh get most of the attention. That's for a good reason. They're sort of the backbone of our theology. The ones in the middle are important too, though. Today, I want to spend a little time talking about our third principle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, number three, acceptance for one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. If you're not paying attention, you might imagine that these two projects have been crammed together into one principle for expediency. You may be thinking, yes, we have a social action committee over here and a worship service over there, or we have a welcoming congregation project over here and a meditation group over there. That's not really how this works, though. Not at all. This third principle reminds us that acceptance of one another and spiritual growth are part of the same project. They inform each other. I would go so far as to say one is inadequate without the other. We covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Acceptance, I know, can sound like a very low bar. I wasn't too keen on it myself until I sat with it a while this week. Acceptance is different from tolerance, of course. Tolerance suggests begrudgingly dealing with someone because we have to. It implies a negative relationship from the start. It's like a Cold War on a very personal level. We don't destroy each other because direct conflict would be disastrous. So here we sit, giving each other the side eye. Acceptance is a big step up from that. I appreciate the idea of acceptance because it sets aside judgment, either negative or positive. One definition of the word that I found was to regard as normal, suitable, or usual. Several years ago, when I was the minister at the UU Fellowship of Laguna Beach, a conversation with a family there made a big impact on me. The story only makes sense in the context of our liberal faith tradition, where we have found joy in fighting for LGBT rights and sought to build multicultural congregations. In that congregation in Laguna Beach, there was a family who participated in the congregation pretty consistently. Their children were especially involved in the religious education program when they were younger. This was a family of two dads and their adopted African-American children. The odd part of their participation was that they drove past three other UU congregations to get there. They drove an hour to get to Laguna Beach. When I asked them why, they explained that this was the congregation where they were accepted just like any other family. Other liberal churches did backflips when this queer, racially diverse family walked through the door. They bent over backwards to show how supportive they were in ways that were just over the top. At Laguna Beach, they said, they were treated just like any other family. Without condemnation or fanfare, they were accepted as part of the community. They were regarded as normal, suitable, usual. To me, that's the beauty of this third principle of ours. It's an invitation to set aside judgment or agendas and simply be together. Acceptance is more than just a way of encountering other people, though. It's also a way of encountering the world around us, or even a way of approaching ourselves. In our second reading this morning, Tara Brock talked about judging of others and judging of self and the division and even violence that judgment fosters. She posits that the place to start healing ourselves and healing the world is accepting the present moment without judgment or expectation, just being open to the present moment. I don't know if you've seen these. One of the more recent gadgets I've seen in the fitness industry is a 3D body scanner. They cost anywhere from several $100s to thousands. Beyond a scale to just weigh yourself, these machines will take a full three-dimensional scan of the shape of your body. You stand there on a turntable and get scanned. Every detail, every measurement, and the machine comes back at you with raw data of every body shape and measurement. The fact that there's a market for these machines points to just how confused our self-perception is. Since we can't look into a mirror and see what is actually there, we invent a machine to do it for us. It makes me wonder what it would be like if we could have this type of objective observation. Letting go of a norm or an ideal to simply observe what is. There's such a laundry list of measures that we fail to meet. Some have been given to us by the wider world. Some of them we cook up out of our own imagination of what should be. Imagine for a moment if we let go of those norms about body or about intellect or social network, wealth, performative morality, professional achievement. It's a very long list that goes on. What if we just observed ourselves without comparison or judgment? To look in the mirror, both the metaphorical mirror and the literal mirror, and simply accept what we see as normal, suitable, usual. Tara Brach suggests, and I'm beginning to believe, that being able to engage with others and appreciate their complexity and different human experience hinges on our own ability to embrace our own selves without judgment. One of the tools that she talks about for practicing acceptance is taking pauses. These are breaks, time out of whatever activity you are doing to notice the moment. Of course, that can be meditation. That's what meditation is, kind of a pause. You can take much longer pauses, like a retreat. You can take much shorter pauses. I love her suggestion of pausing before you get out of the car to take notice of what you're thinking and feeling, a momentary exercise of acceptance before you dive into that activity. Or pausing after a phone call before you jump into the next thing. It doesn't take more than a few seconds or a few breaths. She says that pausing is a gateway to acceptance. In the midst of a pause, we're giving room and attention to the life that's streaming through us, the life that is habitually overlooked. Since today is Mother's Day, it seemed also like a good time to talk about what we learn about acceptance from parenting. I'm not a parent, but it seems to me that parenting is a 25-year-long lesson in acceptance. At the same time, we learn a great deal about acceptance from coming to see our own parents as imperfect people who try their best. Last year, several of us read the book Far from the Tree. It dives into the lives of families whose children have a defining characteristic that's different from the rest of the family. The title is a play on that myth that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In some families, children have characteristics that are completely foreign to the experience of their parents. And each chapter explores a different characteristic. including being deaf, Down syndrome, schizophrenia, disability, prodigies, crime. It's a bit of a daunting book at 700 pages, but it's amazing. And as the author explores each of these experiences, you see patterns that emerge in families that find resilience and deep love. In each of the more positive family stories, accepting the reality of the situation is a necessary hurdle for moving forward. And when we so fiercely love a person, it can be really difficult to accept the reality of what just is. Over and over again, these families found that coming to terms with the reality of the situation was a critical step. It allowed them to begin to love their children completely, not in spite of who they were, but to love them fully because of who they were. Another theme that emerged in the book was how parents sometimes see situations as much more challenging than their children actually experienced. Young children seem to have a particular gift for acceptance. They see people through their own eyes without the filters of what should be. Something my niece said to my mom one day always sticks in my mind. This was several years ago. They're very close, my niece and my mom. They spend a lot of time together. One day when they were hanging out, my little niece looked at my mom with a funny, curious look, and she said, "Susu," that's what she calls her. "Susu, why does your face look like that?" It took about 2 seconds for my mom to realize that she was talking about wrinkles. "Why does your face look like that?" It's wonderful how kids have a completely different framework of what is good or even acceptable. Aging skin was nothing to be embarrassed by or to not talk about. It was just a curious reality. Children's acceptance has nothing to do with societal norms or standards. It's based on a one-on-one relationship. In the book that I was talking about, parents learn that acceptance isn't based on an ability to achieve a goal or adhere to some ideal. Acceptance is it's not based on an exterior definition. Instead, it's based on the individual and the individual's unique beauty and inherent worth. Navigating family, cultivating acceptance and love wherever we find it. It's not exactly theology, but it is without a doubt some of the most important spiritual work that we will do in our lives. I want to leave with one final note about the connection of acceptance and encouragement to spiritual growth. In some of our UU congregations, one of the things that we are least accepting of is open expressions of faith or descriptions of personal religious experience. But there is no room here for disparaging someone else's faith. And I understand many of you have left religious traditions that felt stifling. Some of us have lived in the political crosshairs of multiple religious traditions. A lot of bad stuff has been done in the name of religion. It doesn't pertain to any one particular religion, though. It pertains to all of them. A lot of really bad stuff has been done in the name of science and atheism and various political systems. We will roundly criticize actions that destroy human community or that endanger the earth. And when people use religion to maintain patriarchy, we will call it out for what it is. Hate is hate, oppression is oppression. At any opportunity, we will side with love and justice. But we cannot disparage another person's relationship with God, with the earth, or with whatever they find sacred and remain true to our principles. We can wonder and ask questions. We might even privately debate in the context of a trusting and supportive relationship, but we will not poke fun at anyone for their religious beliefs. The word acceptance can sound so passive. It's like such a low bar. I'm beginning to understand that even though it's squeezed in the middle of our seven principles, it may be one of the most important skills we have to learn. Amen.